okay? That's very, very important. Another example of a good intersectional work is the attention that let me give it to you this way. So I was out in front of the police station here, and this was in November, after the grand jury had decided not to indict the police officer. And protests were going on, and some brother got the idea that he would speak out on the streets in front of the police station, that he would criticize LGBTQ persons. And the brother happened to critique and to say something that was rather homophobic. He was standing behind one of our transgender brothers and sisters. You know, wrong time, wrong place, brother. Because he immediately was put in check. So you have this, what I saw emerging, and perhaps not emerging, but what I saw emphasized there was this insistence that the work of transgender Black people not be diminished in the struggle. And that's very important. Particularly important as we look at the statistics of Black trans women being killed on the streets in America. You cannot invisibilize the activism, the work, the very being of trans women and trans men subsumed under this sense of, you know, Black people need justice. And then Black people, oppressed people sometimes oppress, okay? And for Black people to use a kind of, and it's usually wrapped around religious language, okay? To use the language of religion to clothe themselves in a bigotry that makes invisible the discrimination of transgender women and men. You see? And I was very happy to see that pushed back against here on the streets of Ferguson. And I'm always very happy to continue to see it being critiqued. But again, I want to make sure that when we talk about intersectionality, we are not saying simply bring in transgender persons, but that we are really lifting up and making their experiences of discrimination on par with our experiences of discrimination. Everybody follow where I'm coming from? I'm gonna finish right now. Last example of intersectionality and its importance, because we're in a church, and because I really, my work as an activist has, and as an elder in the United Methodist Church, I'm a United Methodist elder, has made me very aware of the ways in which our denominations, and I'm speaking as a Protestant, very aware of the ways in which our denominations are also not paying attention to the distinct sufferings of persons. So for instance, in the United Methodist Church, we did one of our general agencies on religion and race, helped lead our church into what was called a service of repentance for the discrimination that our church was party to, that led to Bridget Allen walking out of one of our churches and starting what's called the AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church, that leading to the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, to the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, CME. All of these different Methodist, predominantly Black Methodist bodies, left our traditions as protests against racism, okay? And the church later on repented of that racism. We had a schism in our church also because some of our clergy refused to give up slaves, okay? So we find ourselves now repeating that history, though our church has had a very formal service of repentance. Last year on the floor of our general conference, we meet every 4 years for business, a business session. I decided to lead and to put together, to put together a Black Lives Matter protest. Strangely enough, once the language of the protest lifted up the Black lives of the LGBTQ community, because within our church laws, there is this LGBTQ persons are prohibited. Those who are practicing what our church calls practicing self-avowal, they're prohibited from ordination and can be prohibited from membership in our church if they're practicing in self-avowal. So I decided to put together, for our church to be well aware of what they were actually saying, a Black Lives Matter protest, and the church could not understand it. The bishops on the dais could not understand why would there be a Black Lives Matter protest on the floor of this major meeting. The reason they could not understand it is because when they thought of the law itself does not pay attention to the unique struggles of Black people, that when they prohibit LGBT persons, when they discriminate against LGBT persons, what I was saying to the church is that prohibition is also harming Black people who are part of the LGBTQ community. You see how we're trying to lift up what has been invisibilized. And really, they made the case for me by not understanding why in the world we have a Black Lives Matter protest on the floor. So they made that quite apparent for me. So I want to end this up by hopefully what I've been able to suggest to you is to think about intersectionality, to think about an intersectional analysis, not merely as bringing people in, okay? Because that's not the hard work. The hard work is to look at how systems of oppression use the various categories, okay? And use those connections. They strengthen the oppression by using the categories against the people themselves. So the hard work of intersectional analysis is lifting up those groups which are invisibilized, okay? And always keeping them, on equal level of the work, Justice for one must be justice for all. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lacey. So we're going to take a quick 5-10 minute stretch break. So take this opportunity to get some coffee, have some fruit. Also, if you have questions for Dr. Lacey about some of the information that she covered, please approach her and ask for that. Also, if there's anything out of that talk that kind of struck you, an issue that you know about and you want to talk more about, an issue you don't know about and you want to learn more about, we have posters inside of these columns. Take your idea, your issue, your question, write it on a Post-it note, and put it onto a poster. Willis there is being our flight attendant showing you how to use the pens. We are going to use these posters with these suggestions of issues, struggles, ideas to format our conversations that are going to be happening throughout the conference. So make sure if there's an issue that you're like, hey, I want to talk more about how I can lift up trans voices in my justice work, put that on a Post-it note and we'll group you with other people who are interested in talking about that issue as well. So we're going to be back in 5 minutes. Take a break.